In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Bindewerk Contour Basic Ledger Notebook. I'll go over the specs, I will do a paper test, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this notebook coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, it really helps out my channel. Alright, let's get on with the review. So this is the Bindewerk Basic Contour Ledger Notebook, and this is a large notebook. Let's walk through the size and the features, and then we'll do the paper test here. So in terms of the size, it's 9.4 inches wide, and then 11 inches tall. So it's a bit wider than an A4 and then a little bit shorter. Now, in terms of the specs, we have a heavy cardboard paper cover here with a metal edge for extra durability. And then we have a gray linen spine here. So it does open very flat. I'm not really in the middle of this. And it is very, very flexible. Look at how basically these cardboard covers are flush onto the paper there. Now we have pretty big margins here up top, and then here with this red or orange faint line here, 10mm ruling. This notebook I think works really well with big fountain pens. I've been using my Namiki Emperor broad, my Hakase with a double broad italic, and just really enjoying the extra space with the lines here. It works really well for big pens. Now normally I'm a 7mm rule type guy, but it's kind of fun to use something this big format wise. Now in terms of specs, we have 192 pages and they are numbered. They use this kind of funny font which almost looks like it was stamped, but it's actually printed. It's just kind of a antique-y looking font, which sort of adds to the fun of this ledger style notebook. Now, in terms of features, we don't really have much. Oops, I taped this here because this was sort of the packaging that comes with it, so I'll just show that really quick. You do get this label, which I may have ruined, that you can stick on the front there that says Bindewerk. And then this is a little pamphlet that just shows some of the Bindewerk notebooks. These are all handmade in Germany. And in terms of specs here, we have 100-gram paper, which is heavier than the typical metal edge Bindewerk notebook, which I believe is normally 90 GSM. It's under 92 pages. Now you will see there's bleed through. That's just kind of part of the deal with this Bindewerk paper. I did a review of another Bindewerk notebook. I'll put a link to that up in the corner. That's just kind of how their paper is. This is not a laid paper like that other one that I reviewed, but this is a cream colored paper. And I do find it to be pretty nice to write with. No other things in the back. We can just see Bindewerk here, handmade in Germany. And we do have a nice elastic strap. And visually, the most interesting thing about this notebook is this metal edge, which really just increases the durability. You're not going to be able to bend the corners of this or bang it from just general shelfware. So you're going to have something that's really quite durable because of this. Now, it is quite a heavy notebook. We also do have a gray bookmark here, which is nice. Retail price on this is $50. Let's take a look at the paper test, and then let's compare it to a Kokuyo auxiliary ledger style notebook, which is one of my favorites. Okay, so looking at the paper test here, the fountain pens look pretty good. There is a bit of feathering we can see on the Pilot 3mm parallel and a little bit on the 6mm. The other fountain pens look pretty good. The Pilot High-Tech Point V10, that does definitely show some feathering. And I would say the rest of the pens, except for maybe this Copic Sketch here, looks pretty good. Now when we go to the back, the result isn't quite as nice. We do get bleeding on the Pilot parallel pens, the Lamy 2000 double broad, the Lamy Accent oblique broad, the, what is this? Lamy 1.9 millimeter, we see some spotting. Basically, I would say all the fountain pens except for the Platinum Curidas Fine and the Lamy Studio Extra Fine. So if you go fine, extra fine, you look to be okay here. We do see a little tiny bit of spotting from the Pilot V10 high-tech point, but it's not quite coming through all the way. And then there's a little bit from this Stabilo Bionic Worker, which is a roller ball. There's just a touch here. And interestingly, for the Troublemaker pens, only the Copic Sketch really came through. The Sharpie, the Stettler Lumocolor Permanent Marker, and the Pilot Oil Drawing Pen did not penetrate this paper. Now, it's 100G paper, so it's pretty heavy. So, in terms of that result, it's not the best fountain pen performance. Having to stick with fine and extra fine. Now, the Platinum Curidas Fine, honestly, is really more like an extra fine because the Japanese nibs tend to be a bit thinner. So that's not a great result. That said, I have been writing on this a lot. And yeah, this is what the show through and bleeding looks like. I have no problem writing on both sides of this. I use this typically for like morning pages and sort of just flow of consciousness type writing where it's not that precious to me. If it was, a journal that I was planning to keep for a long time, I might want some nicer paper. So that's kind of the bummer with this, but I still enjoy using this. I'm 160 pages in here and I'm going to finish it. I do enjoy it. Now, let's take a look at this compared to the Kokuyo auxiliary book. Now, this is the A4 one, which is the biggest one. The nice thing about the Kokuyo is that it comes in A4 here with 200 pages. There's B5 with 200 pages, B5 with 100 pages, and they did unfortunately discontinue the A5 size. So it's nice that you do have options, including in terms of page count. Now, this does have a rounded spine with some gilt edging on there, and we do have a colored book block, which I really like. And this has a very cool paste down. And then you have a table of contents here. And then you go into your ruled pages. Now, in terms of the ruling, 7mm ruling, it's a lot harder to fill up one of these pages. So 7 versus 10mm, you can fit a lot more writing on this because of that smaller ruling. In terms of the paper performance, the Kokuyo notebooks are better with fountain pens, but they're still not perfect. It's still not like, oh, this is the best paper for fountain pens. With the wider ones, you will get a little bit of bleeding. There are more pages with this. You do get 200 that are actually numbered, and then you also get a few extras. Kokuyo is an extremely old Japanese brand. I want to say they're over 150 years old, and they still make really neat old stuff like this, although it looks like they're starting to discontinue it a bit. This is $45, and this is $50. I think this is more notebook for the money, but I can certainly see the case for this. You get the wider ruling, which I have been enjoying, and you get this really durable metal edge. So pros and cons to both, but they're both really nice notebooks. You also do get the elastic on here, which is nice. So what are my pros and cons for the Bindewerk Contour Basic Ledger notebook? I like the size. This is a very big, luxurious size. It's wider than an A4, a little bit shorter, but very luxurious to use a notebook this big. And it has a 10mm rule, which I don't normally like, but in this format, it is pretty enjoyable. I like these metal edges. It just makes the notebook feel very durable. You're not going to run into any bumped corners on this because they're made of metal, so that's pretty nice. I also like that we have these numbered pages. I love these ledger style notebooks. It just has kind of a nice old school feel to it that I really like. Another pro is that the build quality is very good. These are handmade in Germany. The binding is very flexible with that linen covered spine, stitched binding, 12 signatures. It's a well put together book. Very happy with the quality of it. In terms of cons, paper performance isn't the best. So if you're someone that's bothered by bleeding, you're not going to like this paper probably. If you stick to skinnier, fine, extra fine fountain pens, you're not going to see too much bleeding. I think it's perfectly suitable for that. But once you start getting bigger, you do get bleeding. Price, $50. Pretty expensive. There's also not that many places where you can find these for sale, so they're a little bit more difficult to find. But that's pretty much it. Do you guys have this notebook? Do you like this notebook? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much, and until next time.